just as fast as Twisted Sister blew up, they went right back down.
Probably my favorite Dio album, and they were peaking at this time.
The guitar riff at the beginning sounds like it's gonna get your dog pregnant.
Still played live. They're amazing. They stand right next to the stuff on 87.
What every hair metal vocalist was going for in the 80s had something to do with trying to be like David Lee Roth.
Through the death of Dio, like they were not friendly.
People know I love ballads because I'm a big sissy.
My girlfriend's boyfriend isn't me, which is a
A lyric by Gene Simmons where he talks about wanting to put his log in your fireplace.
Keel actually seemed really ahead of its time to me.
I think part of the reason that she's your first female is probably because you're sexist.
I can't do horns and metal.
Look, me and you were on this hit fucking TV show. We're probably getting big heads too because so many people fucking love us.
I should maybe look into them, and then I go,
Right. That's probably a reason she didn't succeed because who the fuck wants anything from Canada?
Heaven's on Fire is one that I don't turn off.
Hey, it's fine that you like him. We don't have to like the same shit.
I knew you were woke.
Hey, Charlie, those aren't my puppies, all right? We're just friends.
Look, I came here to do two things: chew bubblegum and talk hair metal. And it looks like I'm almost out of bubblegum.
Welcome to the Hair Metal Guru. My name is Anthony. They call me the Guru. And today, for our 1984 episode, not a thumbs down. What the fuck is that all about? For our 1984 episode, we have a rock star in his own right, Ryan, lead singer of the band Metalcast, who just released their second single, or it's the second single, right?
Yeah.
Their second single called Headbangers Ball comes with a kick-ass video. Ryan is featured in it along with Metal Mike, obviously.
Classic glam, hard rock, metal, and thrash. Long as it's loud, it's gonna kick my ass. Feeling your bones, shaking your brain. 24/7 driving me insane. Headbangers Ball show. It's time to let go. Metalheads answer your call. Headbangers Ball show. It's time to let go. Metalheads answer your call. Headbangers Ball.
And man, love that song. I love Heavy Metal Rambo. You guys are doing shit that just brings me back to the 80s. So love that song. And Ryan, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And that song's very fun. It's a good one. It harks back to a time that we love, a genre that showcased a lot of good music. And Metal Mike did a great job putting the video together, writing some killer music. We did a little contribution with one another on the lyrics. So yeah, we're stoked on it, and I hope you like the video. Hope you like the song.
And so in the video, Headbangers Ball, which Ricky Rackman and Adam Curry were hosts. Apparently, Adam Curry retweeted the video.
Yeah.
Tonight. So I'm gonna be sharing it on all my socials. So go check. I'm on X. I just shared it on X. I'm gonna share it on my Facebook page, Hair Metal Guru Facebook page. But man, you guys are doing 80s rock the way I fucking love it. It's sleazy. You got a kick-ass voice. So go check out Headbangers Ball by Metalcast with our buddy Ryan on vocals.
Well, thank you very much. That's all I know, man.
All right. This is Ridley, and I think Ridley's going back home to the farm tomorrow, and Charlie's coming back. So all you fans of Charlie, she will be making her regular scheduled appearances coming shortly. Anyway, today I got my good friend Ryan here to talk about a pivotal year in the history of hair metal. Man, we're getting down into these earlier years, but now we are at 1984 and a shocking number of great albums, in my opinion.
Yeah, what an iconic year, right? I mean, we discussed what we're gonna do as to not repeat albums here, and like there was some wheeling and dealing, and I'm telling you, dude, like your list could very well be my list, and I think vice versa. Like there are so many good albums, and it's like it's killing me to rank these.
And it's weird because Brian and I just did 1985, and we were both struggling. I mean, you know, you had your big shots, but we were struggling to fill out our top 10. This time, I was like, damn, there's some great albums that I'm gonna have to leave off. So anyway, so that's what I mean when I say, I mean, you're talking about the very beginnings of hair metal right here, but a great year in the history of rock and hair metal. So before we get into it, hey, if you're new to the channel, I would love it if you like this kind of shit, subscribe, like, comment. You have an option to join and be a member. Hey, whatever you do, I just appreciate you being here. And in honor of the year 1984, I got to show something I framed. So this is something I started a while back. I started framing vinyl like the picture sleeves. So
Yeah.
this is for Rat Round and Round, and I know it's kind of got some glare in there, but the picture sleeve with Tawny Katane, and then the actual 7-inch vinyl record.
Nice.
So yeah, I've kind of gotten into that, and it seems like so I sell this kind of shit. People like that kind of shit. So anyway, there might be a reason that I'm showcasing a rat item today. So man, this has been so much fun working our way down. You and I, we've done 96 to 2000. Now we're all the way down to 84, so it's gonna end shortly, but it's been awesome revisiting all of these great years in hair metal and hard rock history. And I'm glad you've been a part of it, man.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's truly
And
so fun to do.
and I'm liking your David Lee Roth Crazy from the Heat shirt. I decided to go with something a little bit later in the genre's history with my tough What Comes Around Goes Around, and I did that especially since Stevie Rochelle just followed me on X about time. So
All right.
yes, so with that, we each got 10 from 1984. Let's get rolling. What is your number 10?
Cool, man. Thanks. So I'm kicking it off with TNT doing Knights of the New Thunder. Okay. So the first album with Tony Harnell. Some of the titles were swapped from the earlier written versions, and a couple songs were repeats from their first Norwegian record. But if you could find the original, it's got this sweet artwork. It's like the most 80s futuristic as it gets. It's kind of like the Pretty Maids art with the very uh, developed ladies on the cover. Let's just say that. So,
Right.
but it's a cool cover. They Americanized it once. They said, "We ain't gonna sell many copies that way." But anyway, check out the songs "Last Summer's Evil," and I don't know what it is about the song "USA." It's about as basic as it gets with that chorus, but the way Harnell lets it fly when he says "USA" is so epic. Those are my choice songs. TNT is one of those bands that released countless killer albums in the heyday from 84 all the way to 92. And I truly feel like they were too good to take on the true popularity that they kind of deserved, you know?
Right.
10,000 Lovers was about as close as they got to some like, pop metal stuff. But other than that, I think they were just like attracting the young sweaty leather-clad guitar rippers in there and not enough ladies and whatnot. So anyway, TNT is such a talented band, and I wish they would have skyrocketed. They did in their home country. They were like
Right.
the Beatles in their home country, but here, not so much.
And it's kind of surprising because Tony Harnell is kind of a sexy guy. I mean, I think that way, but like if you were thinking that they were going to gain this huge female following, and he does, like, to me, he almost has too good of a voice.
I know.
Yeah. So I'll be honest, like the hits, 10,000 Lovers in one. What's the other one that was kind of a minor hit?
On that album,
Or yeah,
they had "Listen to Your Heart," "Everyone's a Star." And then
Everyone's a Star.
yeah.
So those are when I think of TNT, I think of 10,000 Lovers, Everyone's a Star.
Yeah.
Like when I listen to him, I'm almost like that voice is too pretty and it kind of loses me. So for that reason, I never, like every now and then I'll throw on something from TNT and I'll be like, damn it. A lot of people like this band, a lot of people that like hair metal, but just nothing grabs me. So That's where I'm at with TNT. I feel kind of bad. Tony Harnell, sorry about that. But anyway, like, yeah, I mean, they have a really devoted following. He has a really devoted following. I
Yeah.
mean, it was good enough to get the Skid Row gig for a while,
Yeah.
but you
What an odd
know,
combo that was.
just a band that kind of just missed me.
That's right.
So anyway, all right, but good. Hey, it's fine that you like him. We don't have to like the same shit. All right. Man, I struggled because, like I said, there were some great. And I think make sure that we do an honorable mention because I want to mention some of these albums that didn't make the list. I was like almost didn't. My number 10 almost didn't make it, which would have been shocking. It's the self-titled Wasp album, and you know, I think when if people have watched enough of our videos.
Mm-hmm.
And when people hear me talk about music and vocals, you would probably think that Wasp would be damn near at the top. I love those gritty razor blade soaked, vocals. I love Chris Holmes, just, sleazy ripping guitar. And, this is the beginning of Wasp career. It was the first out, well, the first and only album that featured like the whole band. After
Right.
that, Blackie kind of took over, which I get it. He was the main songwriter, the driving force behind the band. But this album went to number 74 on Billboard. It went gold. Most people know the song I Want to Be Somebody. School Days and Love Machine, or LOVE Machine, were singles. But most people know the song Animal, Fuck Like a Beast.
Uh-huh.
That was supposed to be on the debut album. It got pulled off because they were worried about stores stocking the album.
Yeah.
It got released as a live single later on in the 80s. And then when this album was re-released in like the later 90s, it was put back on there. I didn't know that. I just always assumed
No.
that it was on the album. I don't know
Yeah.
why I didn't. But anyway, so it's a pivotal moment in the history of sleaze metal. Comes in at number 10.
Nice choice, dude. That was definitely their little bit darker phase before they prettied up, but it fit them very well these years here.
Yeah, and to me, they kind of had that gritty hard rock sound that a lot of bands were, kind of fits in with the Rats, and okay, an album that I didn't put on, but the Great White self-titled debut, sleazy guitar, which was kind of the in thing, but Wasp did it better than most. So yeah, so that's my number 10. Let's
Very
move on. Let's go to your number 9. What do you got?
cool. All right. Well, this is my first female fronted artist I've talked about here, and it's Lee Aaron doing Metal Queen. Um, I don't I don't know how her album Body Rock didn't make my 89 list because I love that album and I totally forgot about it. So it might have made it on there. I love that album. But anyway, this album shows Lee's like real pop melodic beginnings mixed with like the early 80s metal stuff she was kind of had to do because that was the style at that point. Um, but it starts to kind of peek through with like the chorus to Head Above Water, which is like my choice off the album. It sounds a lot like what's to come from her as the years go on. And she's got a string of great albums up through the early 90s that are all really true to form and a little bit's bordering some on some like kind of poppier stuff, but she kind of lets it rip. And just like a lot of the female fronted bands, they have like really epic riffage and really epic musicians. I don't know if that's like it stands out because it's a female singing, or they're like, we better make it killer for these rippers because it
Right.
is a female and there isn't necessarily a female market. I don't know. But she made this work really well. And I love her whole catalog up through the early 90s.
So she's like, isn't her nickname the Metal Queen?
Yeah, yeah,
I think,
totally.
and she's from Canada.
Yeah.
So, that's probably a reason she didn't succeed because who the fuck wants anything from Canada? Just kidding. To all our Canadian, hey, I like Canadian bacon and all sorts of shit from Canada. I even like crash test dummies. Okay, good. Um, But so I don't have a ton of experience with her catalog. And I think part of the reason that she's your first female is probably because you're sexist. I know I had two female fronted bands recently, a couple episodes ago, so I'm a little bit ahead of the times. Okay. I'm just kidding. I'm saying this shit because I really don't have a lot to say. I know about her. I know she has an extensive catalog, and now I'm kind of like shit. I wish I would have listened to more of her stuff. So this
Yeah.
will remind me to do that. But good call. And because she has again, somebody that has a lot of respect in the metal community.
Yeah.
So
Good. I knew you were woke.
I'm about as far from woke as you're gonna get. But yeah. Oh, I'm woke, all right. Okay. All right, good call. So my number 9, and this is one of my favorite bands of all time, and a band that, like I've said before, I'm not afraid. They put out some shit. So, and part of the reason that this album comes in at number 9 is because there's some filler in it, but it's Kiss Animalize. And I went and listened back to it today because I'm like, I gotta have a spot for it. But so everyone knows the big hit Heaven's on Fire. And that song has continuously been in Kiss set lists since then. It was still on the the last tour, the end of the road tour. And I love that song. That song, if I, we've talked about doing an episode of the catchiest songs of the hair metal genre. I might put that on there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what that album doesn't get enough credit for is it's super heavy. Sometimes I'm almost like, geez, it's a little heavier than I'm used to. The opening track, I've had enough Into the Fire. Geez, that guitar riff is just blistering. The other single along with Heaven's on Fire was a song called Thrills in the Night, which is good. It's not amazing. My second favorite song on the album is a song that gets a lot of shit. It's the Gene Simmons sung Burn Bitch Burn. And anytime you got a lyric by Gene Simmons where he talks about wanting to put his log in your fireplace, you better take note because that song is probably going to be a ripper. And I'll be honest, the guitar riff at the beginning sounds like it's going to get your dog pregnant. Is so fucking heavy and catchy. I don't know why people. I get it. The lyrics are kind of fucking cheesy. But that song still regularly makes like workout playlists because it's just 4 to the floor, like holy shit, inject caffeine into your veins. So it went platinum. It went to number 19. There's a lot of filler on it, but I think Heaven's on Fire, Burn Bitch Burn, Thrills in the Night make it worth enough to buy it and enough to get it to number 9.
So here's how much Kiss and I are like. I'm not a huge Kiss guy. Was this Bruce Kulick's first, or is this still Mark St. John?
This is Mark St. John's only album after
Okay.
Vinnie Vincent's only album.
Yeah.
Bruce Kulick takes over after this on Asylum.
So Mark St. John played the tour as well.
Mark St. John. So after they recorded the album, he started getting this like arthritis in his hands. He played like 2 shows. He was always there, but Bruce Kulick basically played the tour.
Oh, damn. Okay. I knew there was something connected
Yeah.
there. And because I'm not a huge Kiss guy, I don't know the album tracks very well, but Heaven's on Fire is one that I don't turn off. I actually really do like that song. There's a few Kiss songs where I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I should maybe look into them. And then I go,
Right.
eh.
And
Sorry,
I know
I'm sorry, Metal Mike, and I'm sorry you.
Mark St. John ended up on an album that you've talked about, White Tiger,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
So,
that's killer.
I've spent some time with that album. That's pretty. I think I need to listen to it a little bit more. I actually tried to find it on eBay. The freaking vinyl was going for like $60, so I'm like, not
Yeah, that's
quite,
a good
but-
one.
So
Yeah.
anyway, Animalize comes in at number 9. Moving on, what do you have at number 8?
I got Keel doing Lay Down the Law. The way I kind of put this together was I got 2 major factors coming in here. There's a guy going solo after being in Steeler, and years of material coming out in their first album, just like Out of the Cellar, just like Dawkins, etc., etc. These debut albums from these bands, and they have these killer songs because it was 10 years cooking. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So
Yep.
84 Keel actually seemed really ahead of its time to me. And I wasn't that familiar with this album for a lot of years. And when I first heard it, I thought it was late 80s Keel. And then I was like, oh wow, this is their first one. Like
Mhm.
songs like Born Ready and Lay Down the Law, they sound like they could be 87, 88 Keel, something like that, because they're so hooky and huge. And for it being their first album in 84, it really blew me away. And those are some hot songs. And the band is really coming together here. So I love this album. It might rank right next to The Right to Rock for me.
So okay, we're on 1984. My 1985 episode is in the editing process. By the time people are watching this, it'll be out, but I haven't released it yet. So I have The Right to Rock
Yeah.
on my 1985 list. And it's funny that you mention that, they had, and people say that you have your whole career to write your first album.
Yeah.
You have 2 weeks to write your second one. So,
Right.
and I love The Right to Rock, but in researching it, when Gene Simmons, who produced it, brought them into the studio, they only had like 3 songs written.
Right.
So they took like 3 Gene Simmons demos. They did a cover. So anyway, it just struck me how you were talking about that. And then even though I loved The Right to Rock, it was a case of, oh shit, we're not
Yeah.
ready for album number 2. Now, Brian talked about, was it a Keel album from 87? Now I can't remember what came after The Right to Rock.
So it was The Final Frontier, then it was Keel self-titled.
Okay, I think
Yeah.
Brian talked about the self-titled album.
Yeah.
Anyway, we just talked about how this was a band that they were always on the cusp.
Yeah.
They opened part of the Bon Jovi's Slippery When Wet tour.
Yeah.
But they probably sold a couple 100,000 albums, good enough to get another album, but just never quite did it. And
I know.
it's surprising because these albums are so solid.
I know, exactly.
So yeah, who knows what? And I need to revisit that because I've listened to The Right to Rock a bunch. It's been a while since I've gone back to the debut. So
Yeah.
all right.
It's very consistently good.
Yep. With that, let's go on to my number 8. And so it took a while to get to this band. I would always, I always read the comments. I try to respond to every comment. Sometimes I don't, but I do the best I can. But there are people are always like, man, you got to talk about Black and Blue. Well, I talked about their Without Love album the other day, and what a horrible album title, Without Love, for a fucking hard rock band.
Yeah.
What were you thinking? Anyway, in 84, they released their debut album. And damn, this is kind of a pop metal, hard rock. I don't want to say it's a masterpiece, but there is just some great shit on here.
Yeah.
School of Hard Knocks, Hold On to 18, which is the only song to ever chart by this band. I still love that song. That opening bass line, and just shit. When Jamie St. James sang in Warrant, that was the one Black and Blue song that Warrant did every night, because to me, that's probably the best song in their catalog.
Oh yeah.
They did a great cover of Action by Sweet. On Wicked Bitch is cool. And then I completely forgot about this. Their song Chains Around Heaven was on, there was a thing called the Metal Massacre compilation album. It was the first time anybody had ever heard of Metallica.
Oh yeah.
This thing came out in 82. Rat had a song on this compilation before they came out. And Chains Around Heaven from Black and Blue was actually on the second edition. So here you got a Black and Blue song along with early Rat and early Metallica.
Yeah.
Anyway, kind of like, a lot of the bands we'll talk about, good enough for the record label to say, okay, do another album. Just never quite, they never went gold, but, a lot of people talk about this band. So, it comes in at number 8, and unfortunately, they never made it big.
Love this band. Love their albums in the heyday. And Hold On to 18 again. That's a hit that is very hard to turn off, and I never really do.
It's surprising, when you think about, like, I mean, Rat had a number of hits, which deservedly so, but I think Hold On to 18 would stand up there with most of the great Rat songs, but it
Oh
never
yeah,
that should have been the song that propelled them. I mean, this album should have gone platinum.
totally.
So
Yeah.
yeah, disappointing. All right.
I,
And Tommy Thayer ended up in Kiss years later, so obviously some talent in that band as well.
yeah, he did something right.
Yeah, yeah. Lucky fucker. All right.
Yeah.
We're on to your number 7. What do you got?
Okay, here's where I have HSAS doing Through the Fire, and that's Hagar, Sean, Aronson, and Shreve.
Yeah.
Aronson and Shreve. Sorry, I don't know who you are, and I didn't bother to research it.
Right.
But you know what? If you don't know this album, check out the song My Hometown. That is an epic hard rock song with pride and catchiness all wrapped up in one. And I love it. They're a very short lived supergroup. Bummer, they only rehearsed for like a month and they released this album or recorded this album, did some live shows in San Francisco. That'd have been killer to see. But yeah, these members, like, how could it go wrong? Like, it's such a great album. Top of the Rock animation, like the opening riff when you first press play on this album is like, whew, Neil Sean, you could play like that? Like, this is crazy. He's like the sneaky, Duran Duran, Huey Lewis, Journey, whatnot. Like, they can really rip,
Oh yeah.
but they're always kind of buried underneath like the singer and the keyboards and the pop shit. And they could really rip. Obviously, Neil Sean did a ton of other killer shit, Hardline, Bad English, etc. Anyway, so this album is great. Again, it's fairly ahead of its time. Sammy's he's peaking. This is around the VOA time. So anyway, good stuff.
I mean, Neil Sean actually started in Santana
Yeah.
when he was just I don't know if that was his first band. I'm not an expert on Neil Sean, so somebody
Yeah.
needs to correct me in the comments. Go ahead. But I mean, so it's surprising when he's in Journey, one of the biggest bands in the world, all these side projects that he did, HSAS, Hardline, Bad English. He's done a bunch of solo albums, but I think because he's so talented as a guitar player, he's like fucking in Journey. I don't get to, show my shit enough.
Exactly.
So he does these side projects, which, hey, is awesome. He can still go back to Journey, this huge band, and go out and do these side projects. I have that CD. I just found like a really cool ad for that album out of a Billboard magazine, so I'm going to frame that. But I have not listened to that in forever, so that's one I need to revisit. But I like Journey. I love fucking Hardline, and Sammy Hagar is one of my favorite vocalists. So
Yep.
I'm sure, I'm sure it's a great album. Just need to revisit.
Oh, it is great. And Sammy's peaking here. Have you ever heard of Soul Circus? It was
Yeah.
Jeff Soto and dude, that's another one where you're like, how is this the Journey guitar player?
Right.
It's like Starship too. It's the same thing. It's
Yeah.
like, you can rip, dude. What are you doing?
Yeah, right. But they're like, but I'm not selling 20,000 concert tickets and making millions of dollars ripping. So
Exactly.
I'm to
Smart.
Okay. My number 7, damn it, this is a band that was just always, playing the club scene for years, waiting for their big break. It happens in 1984, talking about Twisted Sister with Stay Hungry. Man, they'd been playing clubs since like 78. Put out a couple, I think, really cool albums. Under the Blade, You Can't Stop Rock and Roll, which I really love those albums, but never sold enough to be considered, a part of the hard rock elite. Stay Hungry comes out, and holy shit, We Are Not Gonna Take It dominates radio. I Wanna Rock comes out and dominates fucking radio, and you're like, what in the world happened? So a solid album. It goes to number 15 on Billboard, goes 3 times platinum, and those two hits just put them in the upper echelon of hard rock royalty. There's also a people know I love ballads because I'm a big sissy. I love the song The Price. You know, that's not your typical "Oh babe, I love you, oh babe, I miss you." It's kind of like, you know, the battle to succeed, and you know, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep working towards this goal, which they accomplished with Stay Hungry. So now their next album comes out, and they try to be all things to all people on Come Out and Play. Their first single is a cover of a 60s song called Leader of the Pack. So it's like just as fast as Twisted Sister blew up, they went right back down. But most people won't deny that Dee Snider is just a powerhouse, not only of a vocalist, but of a personality. He's built a big career for himself in radio and in music. So I still love the early Twisted Sister albums. Dee Snider did some cool stuff with a band called Widowmaker later in the 90s. But, you know, I always compare them to Quiet Riot, shot to stardom, fell down as fast as they blew up, but unfortunate because this is a great album.
Totally, dude. And it's odd because I should really like them because of the other bands I like, but I like Love Is for Suckers and I love Widowmaker.
Yeah.
Everything prior to that, I have never gotten into, and I don't know why. I don't know what it is because there are some good songs on these albums,
Yep.
and I don't know what it is, but I don't know. I'm not a big Twisted guy.
There's some good songs and there's also some shit. There's
Yeah.
also some filler. You know, on those earlier albums, there's always 2 or 3 songs that I really like, and then a bunch where I'm like, okay, yeah, you know. And I've always said, man, if an album gives me 4 songs that I like, it's worth it. Sometimes there's only a couple, but yeah. So
I don't know the difference between his voice in Widowmaker and Twisted Sister because
right,
on Widowmaker, I think like this dude's voice came alive. Listen to the range. This is amazing. Like I don't even, it doesn't even sound like D to me. It does, but you know what I mean? Like it's just
right.
different. And same with Love Is for Suckers. Like Wake Up This Sleeping Giant and Hot Love and all that shit. I'm just like, oof, dude, this is good shit. Maybe they just bubble gummed it up just enough for me.
Right, right. It was, and this is kind of so Tom Werman produced this, and Tom Werman produced a bunch of big albums. But
Right.
years later, Dee Snider shit all over Tom Werman, said he hated the production, and Tom Werman's like, this is your only album that sold anything. So why are you coming out and trashing the one album that gave you your fame anyway? Twisted Sister ended up re-recording this years later and released it under the title Still Hungry. I don't think I've ever listened to it because I hate when bands re-record. You know, I like, you know, like when you know a song, I don't want to hear another version. I like what I heard originally. So some controversy there, but anyway, for a period, Twisted Sister was one of the biggest bands in rock, and you know, we'll leave it at that.
Totally.
So, all right, let's move on to your number 6.
Okay. All right. Here's where I got Judas Priest doing Defenders of the Faith. So this was released in early 84. It had several Priest staples and yet again a killer album cover. You know, between Maiden and Priest, man, they sure delivered with the artwork. Free Will Burning, The Sentinel, Love Bites, and Some Heads Are Gonna Roll were the big ones on that, you know. But like, dude, they play all those songs live. Maybe not Love Bites as much anymore, but the other ones, they certainly do. But Priest just delivered for me from 80 to 91. Like, dude, they had such a killer string of albums in that, you know, little over a decade there. But anyway, I just, this is another, it's like a perfect workout album. It's like Fly on the Wall, Accepts, Eat the Heat, Priest, Defenders of the Faith. Like, dude, you're hitting all your maxes on that one.
You know, like when you were going through those songs, I'm like, fuck, love that song, love that song. And so I'm weird with Judas Priest. I practically love almost all of their singles
Yeah.
and their big hits. But whereas other bands, when I liked the hits, I would go buy I was net, I didn't go out and like revisit and check out all the album tracks. And I should,
Yeah.
because all those songs I loved, I'm like, oh shit, Love Bites. Oh shit. And then, I think You've Got Another Thing Coming, Living After Midnight. I
Yeah.
fucking love their cover of Johnny Be Good. That's gonna,
Yeah.
some people are like, I love that cover. So
Yeah.
now I need to read. So are you big, like, do you like their album tracks as well, or are you kind of just
No,
into the hits?
no, I'm a completist. I do the whole bit. And I would say a good place to start would be Ram It Down, because that has a lot of cool hidden stuff on there, because it wasn't really a huge album for them,
Yes.
but it has a good balance of those album tracks. And
Yeah.
that's where I kind of started to revisit the album tracks in Priest. And then I went back again because I had the Metal Works, which is a 2-disc
Yep.
CD, and
Yep.
it has the hits and all the stuff you'd imagine. And then I was like, there's probably some hidden stuff on here. I went, yeah, Ram It Down, Painkiller, and then I went back all the way to Screaming for Vengeance, and I was like, dude, I've been missing out for all these years.
Yeah. And I'm sure, and that's one of the great things about music. Like I have so many CDs, and there will be times where I'll get a CD and then play it once, put it away, revisit it years later and go, dude, what the fuck? There were so many awesome songs here that you missed. So anyway,
Exactly.
now I got to revisit the Priest catalog because I love Priest. It was just a band. I never went out and like purchased everything and dived deep.
Of
But
course.
now I will. Promise. Okay. All right. We're on to my number 6. This is a band that's gotten some exposure, rightfully so. I loved their 1987 album, but I don't know that I've loved their other albums until so I was researching. So I'm talking about Whitesnake. Okay. And the 87 album sells 8 million copies. It's fucking huge. But I never had gravitated towards their earlier stuff. But in researching this episode, I did not think that Whitesnake Slide It In was going to make my list. In fact, I thought you would have it. But when you didn't, I'm like, well, I love the song Slide It In.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to go revisit this album, see if I can find a place to put it in the top 10. So I'll be honest, I had Great White in the top 10, but I pulled Great White out because I listened to this album and I'm like, fuck, Slide It In, Slow and Easy, and Love Ain't No Stranger. Are you shitting me? And I think Slide It In and Slow and Easy are 2 of my favorite fucking ever Whitesnake songs and 2 of the catchiest songs of the fucking decade. So I'll be honest. There's a lot of songs outside of those 3 that I don't gravitate to. David Coverdale has something about all his lyrics got to be, I'm looking for love, I'm searching for love, where is love? I'm like, Dave, get a new hobby or something. But those 3 songs are worth the price of admission alone. That album ended up going double platinum, and part of the reason is because when the 87 album blew up, people started going back and revisiting the earlier shit. So I'm not huge on the early Whitesnake bluesy shit. But that straight ahead, Slide It In, Slow It Easy, Still of the Night, all that shit I love. So that brings this album in at number 6.
This was part of the wheeling and dealing, man. This would have absolutely made my list with those 3 songs. And those are the only 3 that I dig, to be honest. And I'm right there with you.
Yep.
The 70s-ish Oregon-based Whitesnake, that Oregon piano keyboard stuff, it does not do it for me.
No.
I'm sorry, I don't do it. If you hear the early versions of some of the re-recorded songs, you'll know why.
Right.
You know what I mean? And but those 3 songs, dude, insane. Those
Yeah.
still played live. They're amazing. They stand right next to the stuff on 87 and Slip of the Tongue, which are both my 2 choice albums. On the ballads episode I did with Metal Mike on the 80s Glam Metal Cast, I gave a little nod to the first 1 minute of Love Ain't No Stranger as one of the best ballads of all time. but then it kicks in so
Yeah.
killer. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But yeah, that
Yep.
song is probably my choice on that album is Love Ain't No Stranger. It's got a little, it's like the Animal Def Leppard of that
Yes.
album. It's got a little bit of everything. So yeah, man, that's fantastic stuff.
Well, and earlier, like, so I think on the first version of these songs, John Lord from Deep Purple was the keyboard player. And that, early keyboard heavy, like I respect Deep Purple. I like some Deep Purple songs, but early Whitesnake kind of sounded too deep
Yeah.
purpley.
Yeah.
When they kind of moved away from that and to the 80s hard rock, glam rock sound, that is my Whitesnake, and I'll go to my grave fucking defending that. I get people liking the earlier shit. It's not for me.
Agreed.
So, all right, let's move on to your number 5. What do you got?
Yeah, speaking of keyboard, here's where I got Autograph doing Sign In, Please. And it's funny you should mention, I almost wanted to switch part of my list to make this number 6, but Twisted Sister, Quiet Riot, Keel, Autograph took off huge.
Yep.
And for the novice, that was it. For us, we
Yep.
know all their shit, and we're
Yep.
like, we can appreciate it all and dig deep
Yep.
into it. In fact, I dig every album more from Sign In Please on through the heyday for
Yep.
Autograph, because they kind of ditch the keyboard sound a little bit more and go to the more ripping guitars. And that guitar player was like the next Eddie Van Halen. Like, he was shredding. So anyway, this one's got Send Her to Me, 19 and Nonstop, My Girlfriend's Boyfriend Isn't Me, which is a Plunkett is like one of those witty lyricists, like a Steven Tyler or like a Bon Scott or something like that, where all these funny innuendos, and he does a great job of that. So and of course turn up the radio. So and let's not forget the Steves: Steve Plunkett, Steve Isham, and Steve Lynch, all in one band. That must have been confusing on the tour bus.
Right.
But again, like, just like Keel, they got the Slippery When Wet. These guys got Van Halen 1984. And the story goes, Roth approached Steve Plunkett or someone in the band and said, hey, we're going out on this massive tour. You guys should open. And they said, oh, fuck, we better come up with a band and write an album. Like, there was nothing there.
Oh, right.
Other than the band member he was speaking to. Roth knew that he was a musician, and a good one at that, and said, if you want the opening slot, you can have it. And they went, oh, dude, we better make something happen right now. And so for that to occur and then produce Sign In Please is pretty cool, because it's a solid album, So anyway.
And I've always dug Autograph. I mean, it was that combinate pop metal. To me, it's pop metal.
Totally.
But just always catchy. You're right. Like the lyrics always had some neat little twists. And but yes, they each after this, turn up the radio. It was a massive hit. I mean, I was a little kid, so I was like 13 when this shit, and everybody was singing turn, on the bus and shit. But and you mentioned the keyboard. I've always thought that song would have been a little cooler if those keyboard lines had been crunching guitar riffs.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's weird that we're, because Steve Plunkett, the vocalist, he released a solo album in 91. And fucking it didn't do shit, but it was actually pretty catchy. I listened to it. And So I was just on Amazon. I'm always on Amazon looking, like to see what albums are releasing or what bands are releasing albums. And lo and behold, the new Steve Plunkett solo album is coming out in like a month. And
Yeah.
in the description, it's like, man, so who knows what's going to happen with it, but reminiscent of the 80s stuff. So I'll be interested to at least hear some samples and see what happens. But
Well,
really, really catchy pop rock band that deserved better, like so many others.
so two things. When you said the crunchy guitars would have replaced or should have replaced the keyboard, check out Y&T doing Summertime Girls live, especially live. They replace the da-na, da-na with Dave Meniketti doing the da-na, da-na, and it sounds
Right.
really killer. So there you go. You got a good ear for that. And then the second thing is the Steve Plunkett album. I don't know if you've heard the first single, but
Of the new one?
it's not good. Not
Of the new 2024.
brand new, and
Oh,
it is not good. And
okay.
I'll say it right now, it is not good. But check it out. You probably laugh a little bit.
I'll check it out. Yeah, I just had Y&T on the 85 episode and talked about Summertime Girls. And yes, I
Nice.
remember thinking that, I mean, I like some keyboard. Bon Jovi did some keyboards really well,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
there are times when you hear a keyboard and you're like, fuck, if that had a guitar crunch. So anyway, that's my
Or
thoughts.
or if you hear horns, sometimes like horns, like Easy Come, Easy Go, Winger.
Yeah,
Ugh. But da-na-na-na, if that weren't horns, it would be that much more killer.
right.
Just saying, some lynch mob in there too. I can't do horns and metal.
Horns and metal is like fucking uh shit. What's that thing what's the fruit people put on pizza?
Pineapple.
Pineapple. That's stupid.
Oh yeah.
Probably
Sorry
like
about the tangent.
No. Okay, we're done with that. All right, let's move on to my number 5. Oh, one of those bands. I love this fucking band. And I've talked about them before. They were right there at the beginning with Motley Crue, but they were over in Finland. So they weren't, getting all this publicity until years later. I'm talking about Hanoi Rocks. And in 1984, they put out their first American national release, Two Steps from the Moon. They put out, I think, 4 albums overseas that didn't get released until years later. And there's the poster right there when Guns N' Roses record label reissued the Hanoi Rocks catalog. But to me, they were the band that perfected the glam hair metal look before anybody. They were doing this shit before Motley Crue did Theater of Pain. Michael Monroe, to me, that's what fucking Bret Michaels and a lot of those vocalists, that's what they were trying to, and David Lee Roth. I get it. There's always Van Halen too. But in 84, they put out Two Steps from the Moon. They get Bob Ezrin of Alice Cooper and Kiss fame to produce this thing. Now, granted, I will say Michael Monroe doesn't have the prettiest voice, but I like some of those gruff, almost kind of, it's like, oh, it's not pretty, but it just fucking works in the context of a song. The first single, I thought they messed up. It was a cover of the CCR song Up Around the Bend. It's a great cover, but the first single should have been their original Boulevard of Broken Dreams. No, I'm not talking about the Green Day song. It's the Hanoi Rock song, and it fucking rules. Up Around the Bend is a great song. It could have been a single, shouldn't have been the first single. There's another song called Million Miles Away that is a little bit more mellow, kind of a dark and desperate song. And then they had a ballad called Don't You Ever Leave Me that I love. Well, they go out on tour the drummer Razzle gets in a car with Vince Neil, dies. It basically ends the promotion of this album, ends the band. I will just always wonder what would have happened if he hadn't died, if the band had stayed together, because a lot of people were predicting that they were going to be the next big thing in rock.
Yeah, I still haven't gotten into them enough. I don't know what it is, you know. All the Motley Crue lore, the Vince Neil lore surrounding it. It's a real bummer that they stopped performing as a band after that 84 car accident, you know? Real bummer. And I remember the video very well for the Creedence Clearwater cover. And I always thought this is really awkward. Like, you know, it's a good song, obviously, but I don't know that it was the right choice for the band. They did a good job, but it was just almost identical to the original ish.
Right.
I don't know. It's just one of those that
if you haven't listened to it, go check out the song Boulevard of Broken Dreams.
Yeah.
For somebody who likes hair metal, I think that is if that song doesn't grab you, then I'd be like, yeah, hey, they're just not for you. Like TNT is apparently not for me. But that song is the closest that you'll get to like, hey, you know, I could hear other bands doing, you know, it's crunchy guitar, it's cool shit. Their earlier catalog, I can listen to it and be like, I can get why people don't gravitate to it. For some reason, it worked for me.
Yeah.
So
cool. I'll check that.
Check out Boulevard of Broken Dreams. With that, let's go on to your number 4.
Okay, here's where I got Dio doing Last in Line. I mean, dude, you got We Rock, Last in Line, Breathless, I Speed at Night. Probably my favorite Dio album. And they were peaking at this time, like just peaking big time. It's the killer artwork. The look is killer for them. Vivian Campbell was still in the band. And it's just like the perfect early mid 80s Dio with the dark, mysterious medieval shit going on. You know, the videos were very apropos. It was just like it was just the time for Dio to be like peaking with the dragons and all that shit. And they did a great job, and his voice is absolutely amazing. And I remember getting this album and thinking it was a bit much for me at the time. Might have been early in my loving of the genre. And I thought, this is kind of gnarly. Like, We Rock was pretty hard for me at the time.
Yeah.
And then as the years went on, I was like, okay, now I love it. Now I get it. So I've really come to love Dio.
Some of these bands, and I think Dio kind of fits in this as well. In the early 80s, you didn't have to be like super, like, you didn't have to be a hot lead singer.
Yeah.
You just had to rock, and damn it, it kind of sucks that we kind of, but some Twisted Sister, Quiet Riot, when Bon Jovi and Poison and Cinderella exploded, those guys just didn't kind of fit in, and it's unfortunate. So you wonder if that's part of the reason that their popularity just drained, like they weren't gonna fit with the pretty makeup filled, hard rock bands. But
Totally.
I've just been watching some YouTube videos. I can't remember what channel, but this guy, talks about like it's a guitar focused channel, and he talked about how Vivian Campbell said that Ronnie Dio had promised, hey, we're going to get this band established, but for the first couple albums, you're not going to get a lot. I'm going to take a lot of the money and we're going to put it into making the band successful. But he said by the third album, you're going to be like, an equal share. Well, when it got to the third album, Vivian Campbell, at least from this YouTube channel, went to Ronnie and said, okay, hey, we're on the third album. We're a successful band. Can we talk about doing what you promised? And Ronnie kept kind of putting him off. And then Ronnie's wife, now I can't remember, Wendy Dio, said, here's your contract. If you don't want to sign it, fine. We'll get another. And that's what he ended up leaving the band. They got the guitar player, and that's also kind of when, the first two albums did really well, and when I think it was Craig Goldie came in, and
Yep.
no shit about Craig Goldie, but Dio's sales really started to drop on album 3.
I know, very odd. And the bad blood ran for a very long time, like up
Yep.
through the death of Dio. Like they
Yeah.
were not friendly. So I could see that story being true, which is very sad and odd.
Yes. But I think that happens all the time. Like, you've heard the same shit with Ozzy Osbourne. People who wrote lyrics and music, but when the album gets put out, all songs by Ozzy Osbourne, and they're like, what the fuck? They're like, well, hey, if you don't want to be in the band, like, hey, you're going to be able to tour and make all this money from touring, but if you don't like how I split up the money from the songs, then quit. And most people are going to go, fuck, okay, you have all the money, because if I'm not in Ozzy, where am I going to go?
Yeah, that was that Phil Suzanne thing with the Shot in the Dark, I think. And that was one of Ozzy's biggest.
And now I can't remember his name, but a guy who wrote a bunch of the lyrics, Bob Daisley, I think Bob Daisley wrote a bunch of the lyrics, and the same shit happened with, I mean, Randy Rhoads. They were talking about him, like he was gonna quit when he died. And then who was the guy that was in Badlands? Jake Lee.
Yeah,
had a lot of that shit happen too, where like he was like thought he was gonna get all this publishing money, and Sharon's like, nope, that's Ozzy's. So
oh no, I'm sure it's not a coincidence, dude. I'm sure all the shit went on.
Totally. So, all right, kind of a bummer, but yes,
It was the rock stars' wives. It was the singers' wives. They're the issue.
chicks don't belong in rock. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. But yeah, it's kind of weird how this shit happens. All right, let's move on to my number 4. Okay, so I haven't published 1985 yet, but when you're watching this one, it will be out, and I'm hoping people don't shit all over me, because I put in Night Ranger. I think Night Ranger will get a pass, but I also put in the outfield because I fucking love, when you're a kid and you're just getting your musical taste, a lot of what you're gonna love is what's on the radio.
Oh yeah.
And the outfield, Play Deep, I loved that shit. It was all over the radio.
Yeah.
So in 1984, the album Reckless by Bryan Adams comes out. And hey, I'm not afraid to admit it. And I'm the hair metal guru, but there's
gotta go.
That he's like, okay, I'm out of here. I don't want to be associated with this shit. But I love this album, and it went to number 1. It was 5 times platinum, and I can still listen to Summer of '69, Run to You. The damn thing had 6 singles. One Night Love Affair was a great song, and Heaven is the Bryan Adams song, is still one of my favorite ballads. That went to number 1. So yes, it's not hair metal, but when you listen to those songs, I'll be damned if I don't, he doesn't have a hair metal look, but I think a lot of those songs fit right in with what hair metal ended up doing. Agreed? No?
Of course I agree. I love it. Yeah, I absolutely do. I have all his shit, and I have all the outfield shit, which I preach, dude. So yeah, both of these I have no problem revealing my soft spot as well.
Yes. I mean, there's some driving freaking rocking guitar on a lot of these songs. It's not heavy metal, but like when we get into bands like Taiketo and shit, House of Lords, the only thing Bryan Adams doesn't have that those bands have was the super long hair.
Yeah.
So love that album. Not afraid to admit it. Comes in at number 4.
Well, dude, he had Mutt Lange stuff going on in the later 80s anyway. Like it was, I referred to Starship earlier.
Yeah.
And again, I'm happy to reveal my softer side about this stuff because it's catchy shit, dude. I don't give a, it's fine. But the Starship album, Love Amongst the Cannibals, had a Mutt Lange produced single, and you can absolutely tell it's Mutt. It's Def Leppard Mutt back then. It was freaking awesome. I love it. I love that whole album. And then was it Wake Up the Neighbors that had the Mutt Lang, I think?
Yep. Yep.
You know, and but it's not too far off when it comes to the earlier 80s Bryan Adams stuff, dude.
Yeah.
Like there's
Yep.
nothing wrong with it. He's got a gritty, rough voice. He plays
Yeah.
good guitar and he's got some catchy ass shit and he's come a long way. He's still at it and he's still super popular. Canadian guy, but whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Fucking Canada. And I mean, people who don't think Bryan Adams has any street cred or rock cred, he wrote the song War Machine for Kiss, which is one of Kiss's heaviest fucking songs.
Yeah.
And now speaking of Mutt Lang, for years, I thought Mutt Lang produced Reckless. It wasn't. It was Bryan Adams and Bob Clearmountain.
Oh wow.
I thought it was a Mutt Lang album, but anyway, it sold like a Mutt Lang album.
Yeah, and you know because you're a metal magazine guy, I think Bryan Adams is in the photo helping do backup vocals on Dr. Feelgood.
Oh,
Remember? I think there's a photo. It's like
okay.
Steven Tyler, Jack Blades, Vince,
Yeah.
Bryan Adams, and like a few other rippers, and they're all in a circle in the microphone, and they're all singing whatever background vocals in Dr. Feelgood. So, you know, there's a little more cred for you.
Well, hopefully they let Bryan Adams and all those other guys sing and they toned down Vince's vocals. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Well, hey, also I wanted to maybe add John Parr to this list, but I didn't. So anyway.
Hell, you could have, so I wouldn't be the only one promoting this pop rock shit. Just kidding. But hey, I still can listen to those songs. And yeah. All right. That's my number 4. We are on to your number 3. We are rolling right along here.
That's right.
Hey,
Okay.
hey, Brian from the Hairband Basement, why don't you take notice? This is how you get shit rolling right along, all right?
Okay, so here's where I got Y&T. Speaking of Y&T, doing In Rock We Trust. Dude, another one. Another album they thought it was going to catapult Y&T to superstardom, and it didn't, which sucks. They had Rock and Roll's Gonna Save the World, Don't Stop Running. One of my favorites, Lipstick and Leather, dude. Oh, God, I love that song. Life, Life, Life. Anyway, killer album. Unfortunately, they never quite achieved that huge 80s success, but their string of 80s albums is untouchable for me. Huge Y&T fan. Killer artwork. From what Dave Meniketti says, they paid big bucks to get that guy's name was Rock. Very, very creative here. The guy's name was Rock on the cover. They had Rock live on stage, huge outfit, like a 10-foot tall guy on stilts.
Right.
Anyway, killer album cover. Great live video during this era too, and Lipstick and Leather again absolutely kills live. It still kills live. I've seen Y&T. They're a local band for me. They're
Yeah.
you know an hour north for me is where they started, so they always play where I'm from in Santa Cruz, and we have a boardwalk. I don't know if I've told you that before, but we have a boardwalk here, and the boardwalk summer concerts ended during COVID. Dumb. And it was I saw Warrant, I saw Great White, Quiet Riot was there, Y&T all the time, Eddie Money all the time, like a bunch of killer bands that would come out. But Y&T would play every year, and they would draw one of the biggest crowd. It'd be like 10,000 people there.
Yeah.
And they were always so great and gracious, and they played songs spanning their entire career. But Lipstick and Leather went over so well. And you could picture the ocean in the background, Y&T playing to, you know, some of the bigger crowds they've played since the heyday, and Dave Meniketti still pulling it off live like he does to this day. Very cool stuff. So yeah.
That's a band that I didn't really get back in the day. I liked what, you know, is it Keep on Running?
Yep.
I liked Summertime Girls. I liked, but you know, I wasn't out buying Y&T albums.
Yeah.
But it's been in the last 4 or 5 years where all of a sudden I'm like, shit, They
Yeah.
were just a super solid hard rock band. Another
Yeah.
one of those bands that was always just right, you know, they weren't going gold, but selling a few 100,000 albums. They tried. It was it Down for the Count, that out the album that I did in '85, that
Yep.
had
Exactly.
Summertime Girls, All American Boy. You can tell they were going for the big push to
Yeah.
get the hit, and I liked that shit. But um, I've seen some interviews with Dave Meniketti talk about, and maybe it's just because he's doing an interview, but talk about a guy who just seems like a good dude, loves playing live, you know, doesn't seem like, oh man, I'm the big rock star. Anyway, so I have really gotten into this band lately,
Yeah.
and you know, it's unfortunate that they never hit, but like so many other bands that we've talked about, just didn't happen.
Dude, and they had the Theater of Pain tour, you
Oh
know?
shit. Did they?
It, yeah, and that's the
Oh,
thing is like I think it was like them and Loudness, and it was like, dude, they played to a million more people. Like, how did this not get huge? And you're right about Dave Meniketti because I've met those guys several times because every time when they play locally, they do a meet and greet,
right.
and they're always gracious and they're polite. They sign anything you want. I pulled out my vinyl first two Yesterday and Today albums, and they were like, Dave was like, "Oh, now that's what I'm talking about." And there was like a hush in the crowd when like people saw me pull it out of my backpack, and they're like, "Oh, the Holy Grail," and I'm like, "That's right, I got these motherfucker." But and I had them sign it, and they were stoked. What was I going to say about? Oh yeah, so they play like their whole career. They don't care what it is. Like they
Yeah.
play the most 80s stuff. They play the most like 90s shit that like four people know in the crowd. Of course I do, and I'm singing along to it. So I love Y&T so much, dude. They're like the most consistent, great stuff.
Um, you know, I have all these old magazines. So I have some old when they were Yesterday and Today from like the mid 70s. Some
Wow.
a couple framed ads. They're out in my garage. But
Cool.
yeah, I just need to find the right Y&T fan who wants to give me a shit ton of money. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, great band. All right, let's move on to my number three. Okay, now we're starting to get into some of the big dogs, or at least for my albums. I saved some of the biggies.
Yeah.
So damn it, there was a period where I hadn't talked about Dawkins for a long time. And people in the comments were like, dude, I need you to cover Dawkins. Like, seriously, a lot of people would say that because they never made it. Wasn't until I started doing the series of every year where now they talked about them on Back for the Attack in '87. They were on my list for Under Lock and Key in '85, and now Tooth and Nail in '84. So, man, this album goes to number 49, goes platinum. It's their second album after Breaking the Chains, which fuck it, originally came out really early, and it was a Don Dawkins solo album, and then comes out later, and then just the band is Dawkins, you know. But shit, originally George Lynch was just a dude who played on the album.
Yeah.
So now the band is together. They put out their first album, you know, as a band. It goes platinum. Tom Werman's the producer. And shit, this thing is just, you know, Into the Fire was was a big hit. Just Got Lucky was a big hit. And I'll be damned if I don't think that Alone Again might. What is the first hair metal ballad?
I mean, it's up there with them. Yeah,
Alone Again has to be close.
it
Theater
is.
of Pain with Home Sweet Home came out in
Yeah.
'85. Kiss wasn't putting out, you know, and now Kiss had Beth back in, but I'm talking about the first hair metal band to put out a ballad. It might be fucking Alone Again.
It
Now,
might be.
in the comments, I'm sure there probably is something earlier. Somebody tell me what it is. But if it's not Alone Again, it's close. So that was a great song. I always thought Tooth and Nail was a single too. It wasn't. That's a great rock song. Goes platinum, and you know, like later on, you find out that fucking George and Don basically hate each other. But damn, for 4 albums, this band was on fire.
Yeah. Yeah, between this one and Back for the Attack, these are the two that I can just Let Play. And I gotta say that one of the best parts in any Dawkins song is coming out of the solo in Heartless Heart, and Dawn just lets it rip. "Duh, every night is the same old thing." That part, and he lets it rip.
Right.
And dude, that part coming in, dude, it is so perfect. Heartless Heart is one of the best album tracks of any Dawkins album that's out there.
Right.
Dude, yeah. So hey, dude, this would have been way up on my list had I had it on there. And yeah, I can't preach it anymore. Just got lucky. The fact that they open with the solo like that,
Yeah, right.
and it's like it's the opening part of the song as well as the chorus, and
Yep.
it works so well. And that's probably one of my top 5 Dawkins songs, and it's a single, so that's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. I've always said Under Lock and Key is my favorite, but damn it, then you go listen to Back for the Attack and you're like, oh shit, wait a minute. Then you go listen to Tooth and Nail and you're like, oh shit, hold on. So
Exactly.
anyway, yeah, man, what a great band.
And Dawkins loves those rippers, like the song "Tooth and Nail," "Kiss of Death," "Erase the Slate."
Oh.
Like they really know how to turn it up just right.
Fuck, some of those guitar riffs are just fucking melt your face off.
That's right.
Get your dog pregnant. Nah, I'm just kidding. No, I got to stop talking about that. I got dogs here. People are going to be like, what the hell's up with that guy?
And there was a litter.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Charlie, those aren't my puppies. All right. We're just friends. Okay. All right. All right. We are on to your number 2.
Okay. So here's where I got Scorpions doing Love It for Sting, dude. This one has got to be way up there. Any album with I'm Leaving You and Big City Nights is going to make my list and be very high for those 2 reasons right there. And don't forget Bad Boys Running Wild and Coming Home, of course.
Yeah.
And of course, Rocky Like a Hurricane. Anyway, but these guys were peaking in 84, 85, firing on all cylinders. Worldwide Live is one of my favorite live albums ever, favorite live videos ever. This was my very early Scorpions discovery. I think I got like Rockers and Ballads maybe first, and then I think I got Worldwide Live next. So I got a real heavy dose of all the things off of Love at First Sting because it was pretty heavy in Love at First Sting. Obviously, it was promoting that tour. And it was in an arena down in San Diego in the summertime. Oh, dude, perfect era for the Scorps, mid 80s San Diego party summer. Like, what a great time to be in that band and be playing. So I can't get enough of this album. I still love it, and I still play it regularly. I'm a huge Scorpions guy, and between this one and Face the Heat is like my most like prized possession Scorpions. So I love it.
Man, so in the 80s, I liked the hits, but I never went out and was like, yes, I got to get the Scorpions because I associated with them with being a 70s band. So which was fucked up because fucking I love the Scorpions. And man, talk about a band that is still like, I really like Rock Believer. Man,
Right.
they've got some good shit and they're still touring. I mean, it's unbelievable. So I love this album. I feel like I would have totally put it on my list. I feel like I took a lot of the big albums, but so I'm glad you got this one because this album fucking rules. The Scorpions, they were a band that, they survived the 80s, even though, like Klaus Meine wasn't going to fit in with Sebastian Bach and Bret Michaels, but they just were such a great fucking band and wrote such great songs that it didn't matter. So
Exactly. And the album cover is cool too. Another one where like a lot of these is a theme here. These album covers are great.
yeah. Yep. Yeah. And yeah, I'd like to do like some sort of episode on album covers.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get to that. All right. That's a great call. Fucking love the Scorpions. All right. So at number 2, now I know that there's been times in the past where I've said, and I've had people in the comments go, what? You're not like a huge Van Halen fan? Because I always liked Van Halen, you know? And I loved I loved the hits back in the day. That's another band that I wasn't out buying their albums. I was enjoying the shit that was on the radio, but I wasn't digging in deep. However, and this probably maybe this makes me in the minority. For most of my adult life, I've grown up thinking that Van Halen 1984 is my favorite Van Halen album. Okay. And I loved the hits. Fucking, I coach basketball, so I still hear Jump all the fucking time. And
Yeah.
that's a great song. Some people, I think, aren't big on the keyboard aspect of Van Halen. Whatever. Panama, I'll Wait, Hot for Teacher. Man, Van Halen, one of how many bands can say they had two albums sell over 10 million copies? Def Leppard, but how many others? Not very many.
Exactly.
So Van Halen, their 78 debut and 1984. And no doubt they were the biggest band in the world at this time. I mean, Def Leppard had Pyromania, but it was Van Halen. And
Yeah.
fucking, Dave. And you could tell there was going to be problems because Dave has such a outlandish personality that eventually you get tired of being around somebody who's got to dominate everything. So,
Oh,
unfortunately, they break up. Luckily, we get some great albums with Sammy Hagar, but 1984 comes in at number 2.
Oh, very good, dude. I gotta say, it pained me not to have Van Halen on my list.
Would have given them
But
to.
dude, no, I appreciate that. But I'll tell you right now, "Drop Dead Legs" is probably one of my favorite Van Halen songs of all time, and Roth's attitude and lyricism that comes through on that song, and yeah, you could tell he was getting a little weirder at that point, like Roth 81 was still like very cool out there rock star. And then he got just like really out there as the 80s and early 90s went along, and especially now, obviously. But yeah, he was one of the first, dude. Like
Yeah.
he was one of the first to have the hair, the
Yeah.
look, the blonde, the body. The guy was outrageously in shape. He's smart as a I mean, dude, the guy knows he's fluent in Japanese, fluent in Spanish. He's got the tattoos now that he dons, and it's like the vest, like the Asian vest, but he's become a master in the artwork of that tattoo. Like the guy's got a million layers. If you watch that Joe Rogan interview with him, it's a bit out there, and you kind of think like, he's kind of odd, but you could tell his intelligence is off the charts.
Yeah. He was so big. I mean, he was the ideal front man.
Yeah.
Every girl loved him. Every guy wanted to be him. You can't walk around and get that much adulation and that much hero worship without it fucking with your head.
Yeah.
Look, like Sebastian Bach.
Yeah.
I think, he was 18, 19 when he joined Skid Row. He became so big that fucked with his head.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I understand why problems develop. I mean, look, me and you are on this hit fucking TV show. We're probably getting big heads too because so many people fucking love us. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. But anyway, so he goes on. His solo career is in my opinion, kind of a disappointment. He had a couple kind of big albums, but then it kind of went to shit. But without a doubt, every hair metal vocalist was going for in the 80s had something to do with trying to be like David Lee Roth.
Totally. Agreed.
And what a fantastic album 84 was, and they kept it up with this in the Sammy years as well. So
Absolutely.
all right. We are down to our number ones. What is your number one album from 1984?
All right. Well, no surprise here. I'm going The Blitz by Crocus.
I knew it.
Dude, when when I was doing the research for 84, Crocus is such a mainstay that I like forgot the Blitz was like from 84, you know what I mean? Like anyway, Midnight Maniac, Out of Control, Boys Night Out. But my absolute favorite off this album and a Crocus staple for me is Ready to Rock. I don't know how that song wasn't huge, huge. Midnight Maniac is huge ish for them.
Yeah.
Ready to Rock, I don't know why they didn't make that maybe the second single. Our Love was great. Don't get me
Yep.
wrong. And that was probably a good call for the AOR market. But
Yeah.
Ready to Rock, dude, that song is way ahead of its time. I love it. Um, all the album tracks are killer. Out to Lunch, Rock the Nation, Hot Stuff. Anyway, I don't know. I don't really care for Ballroom Blitz, the
Right.
cover song. Um, I like that they named the album The Blitz because they were flirting with Midnight Maniac, which was pretty cliche. It would have been appropriate for the time, but The
Right.
Blitz sounded pretty cool. But
Right.
I don't like the correlation with Ballroom Blitz because I've never really loved that cover that they did, and even though it was a decent hit for them and whatever. But anyway, so it was a cool look for them. Um, the album artwork was very 80s. It didn't look like they spent much time with it, but it still worked very well. The live video, the video blitz is really cool. They do a really good rendition of Ready to Rock on there, actually. So they do give a little nod to that song, and they spend a lot of time doing a lot of like working the crowd with that song. So
Right.
if you don't know the video blitz, it's on YouTube. Check that out too. But it was a good time for Crocus. And you know what? Between Headhunter, Heart Attack, To Rock or Not to Be, and The Blitz, I don't know what my favorite Crocus album is. Those four are my four choice Crocus albums. And I don't know, man. This one could very well be number one on any given day.
Man, I remember loving Midnight Maniac when it came out. And I like, okay, later on in the 80s, I could see that title being like, eh. But man,
Uh-huh.
in 84, I thought that would have been a pretty cool album title.
Yeah, exactly.
Midnight Maniac. I mean, so now when you Ready to Rock, now like I can't hear that in my head. I need to go
Mhm.
revisit the album. I remember Our Love, was kind of a minor hit. Midnight Maniac was a hit.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this band. This is another band that, for whatever reason, just couldn't get over the hump. But man, that cool AC/DC inspired and Mark Storace, damn, that dude could fucking sing. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's unfortunate though, but yeah. And if you had not put it, I would have found a place for this album. But as soon as I remember that Crocus, I'm like, okay, I'll let Ryan have it. And you could have had Van Halen if you wanted it, because
You
anyway,
know what, dude? I think I still would have had this as number one.
right, right,
Yeah. So very good. Thank you for letting me
yes,
have
absolutely,
it.
absolutely.
Go crank Ready to Rock though, dude.
I
Like
will, I
you're
will.
like, oh, that's right. That's why
Yes,
it's so killer.
yes.
Yeah.
All right. It's probably maybe it's probably not a surprise what album I have at number one. Maybe some people would have thought like Van Halen would have been number one, Dokken, but damn it, the Rat debut album, Out of the Cellar. I've been telling people like Brian, that I'm like I only want to try to list four songs because I'm like if you don't like those four songs, you probably aren't gonna. But this album is all killer, no filler, Out of the Cellar.
Oh
It
yeah.
it went to number 7. It went 3 times platinum. Round and Round, Wanted Man, Lack of Communication. Those were the singles. 4 singles. But then You're in Trouble. In Your Direction, Back for More, Scene of the Crime, I'm Insane. Holy fuck. I love all those songs. Hands down, my favorite Rat album. And so their follow-up Invasion of Your Privacy goes double platinum. Then they start going platinum until Detonator went gold. But I still think that when you're talking about the best rock albums of the 80s, that this has to be mentioned up there with your Pyromanias, your Slippery When Wets. I just think the whole thing is catchy as shit. It's gritty, it's sleazy, it's catchy, and it's everything that you wanted from a rock album in 1984.
One song you didn't mention, dude. I take her home. It's late at night. She's looking good. She's hot tonight. Dude, She Wants Money.
Oh shit, yeah.
That's
The only
actually,
reason I left that off is because I didn't want to list every fucking song.
dude. Well, you honestly listed everything but that one, and thank you because you saved it. That's like of the album tracks. That's my choice right there, dude. I know this album note for note, through and through, obviously, just like you do. Lack of communication is one of those hits again.
Oh,
Like Youth Gone Wild, like Just Got Lucky, all that shit, you don't turn off. That song rips so fucking hard, dude. Like, I bang my head to that song harder now than I did in 1990 something when I first got into this.
like this is an album that should have had 7 singles.
Totally.
Like you're in trouble should have been a single. Back for More should have been a single.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck. Anyway,
Back for More was a video, right? Or am I wrong?
well, okay. I mean, I just went by what I saw on fucking Wikipedia. It
right.
said singles were Round and Round, Wanted Man, and Lack of Communication.
Yeah, you're probably right.
So I mean, that could be wrong, but
I think Back for More may have been a video.
maybe.
Maybe I think, but because it was definitely included on like the best of 81 and 91.
Yeah.
Not to say that it would be a single, but yeah, I think it had a video at least. So,
Yeah.
dude,
Okay.
yeah, this album is such a powerhouse, and for Piercy to have this like monster album with the kind of voice he has is
Yes.
pretty killer because like he's not a singer. He's just got that growl. And he does have range, and he
Yeah.
did pull it off live fairly well. And he still does. Like I saw Piercy solo like, I don't know, 10 years ago or something like that. And I wasn't stoked at all. I was
Right.
actually pretty bummed. But then I've seen him recently on some Rat live stuff, or
Yeah.
I guess I think it may be Stephen Piercy solo band, but he
Yeah.
obviously plays
Yeah.
a lot of Rat. But he sounds good. Like I thought he was doing very well. So I think he probably, like Joe Elliott, took some vocal lessons and figured out how to make it pretty true to form from the old days. It's not exactly the pure voice, but it works.
Yeah. I haven't always been big on him live. I mean, there's times where I've been like, "Ugh," and then sometimes
Yeah.
we're like, oh, okay, he pulls off that song.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I love his gritty voice on record.
Oh yeah.
Like
Totally.
on record, he's one of my favorite singers.
Oh
Live,
yeah.
be near the bottom, but on record, oh shit, that gritty sandpaper with savage voice. is
I know,
awesome.
dude. Yeah, exactly.
How about let's list if you have any honorable mentions that you'd like to throw out, let's throw out a couple of those.
Yeah. I had Grim Reaper, Pretty Maids, like in their infancy. The band Triumph, they were known for their early 80s shit, but as the 80s went on, they became more ballsy. And into the 90s, they actually sound really good. Armored Saint, and then I had, of course, Van Halen, Dokken, Bon Jovi, Whitesnake. Sammy had VOA.
Yep.
I had Rat, Honeymoon Suite, and Icon.
Okay. I had Sammy Hagar. I damn near put Great White on their self-titled album. It's that straight ahead rock that I love. If you've never heard their cover of The Who's Substitute, go check that out. People between me and you, I'm sure people are like, Bon Jovi didn't fucking make it.
I know.
No, I mean Runaway was a huge hit. She Don't Know Me was good, but it's a good album, but
Yeah.
not good enough to replace Quiet Riot, Condition Critical. I won't list the one because I had a lot of years. Like Keel, April Wine, Animal, Grace. I like April Wine. Lita Ford, Dancing on the Edge.
Oh, yeah.
Felix, Walking the Razor's Edge, and Madam X. I don't know if you've ever
Oh.
heard We Reserve the Right.
Yeah.
Jim Bach used to be in that band. It's a fucking, it's kind of a funny, just kick-ass hard rock album.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't find a place for it. So those are
That
my,
Lita Ford album had Gotta Let Go, right?
yeah, I think so. I think so. I'm
That's
pretty,
that's my choice Lita song, dude. Like,
right. Right.
yeah, between she, Lee Aaron, Vixen, some Femme Fatale, like I really like that shit. So
Oh yeah.
Gotta Let Go is one of those songs where it's like that's some cooking
I'm
stuff.
I'm shocked that that Lita hasn't made it somewhere in a video.
Yeah.
She should at some. I really like a lot of her. She's always like got a couple big hits. She's always got a lot of filler too, kind
Yeah,
of.
totally.
So hopefully one day she'll make something coming up.
Yeah.
With that, that is the end of 1984. Ryan, thank you so much for being on. It's been a blast.
Thank you very much. It was great.
Hey, what did we miss? Is there anything else that we didn't put on our list or in our honorable mentions that we missed? Hey, is there anything that you disagree with that we put in our top 10? Would love it if you comment, subscribe, all that shit. Hey, I really do appreciate, and a special shout out to my members, the people that are supporting the channel, and I'm going to try to find a way to put your names up at the end of the video, but thank you so much. Until the next video comes out, my name's Anthony. They call me the Guru. Take care.